Well, Seymour, I made it, despite your directions.
D&D from A to Z, spells for you and spells for me. We will see what we will see today. Locals galore and monsters roar, nerds adore forevermore. Let's explore some ancient lore. Hey, hey. Hello, welcome. My name is Jordan Maywood, and I am the I was going to say lackadaisical lubricubicalist, but that's what I say on my podcast. Instead, I should say the Alphabetical DM, because that's what this is. This is where I review every monster, spell, location, and also have a main subject, which I'll just reach in and grab. Dumb. But so is this thing. What is not dumb is the fact that everything I say just about will be an opinion. So please be warned of that. The lovely thing of D&D is that there's no wrong way to do it, really, necessarily, kind of, sort of. You can have a totally different way of doing it, and as long as your players are on board, and there's not even a board, despite some people thinking this is a board game. You ever have that, actually? You ever have people asking about D&D, and one of the questions is there a board? Because they think it's a board game. It's not a board game, it's an exciting game. Let's just move into the main subject, because I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, this is the first in the Why I Am a Bad DM series. If you are unfamiliar, this is episode 18, and every even... Am I right? I'm pretty sure I'm right. Every even-numbered episode will be one in which will be part of a series. So this is the Why I Am Bad DM series. There's the Feats series. There's it's all subjects that I can do multiple episodes of. I think maybe the next one will be alignment. Not sure yet. Things where there'll be multiple episodes of each, such as, and the sad thing is, I have many of the Why I Am a Bad DM things, subjects. First is travel. Yes, travel. Travel in D&D. Travel in any role-playing game can be tricky, and there's often not set mechanics, at least in my studies of them. Particularly in D&D, there's things you can do. There's things like random... Well, why don't I just read my note? Travel, although this will be a multi-part subject. Yeah, I just said that. Okay, I think because getting from point A to B in real life is often the worst part of travel, I will often ignore it and just sort of cut it out altogether. I have used things like airships. My current campaign, we're using Plannar Gates to get from plane to plane. That's more of a story thing in that, because it's called the Sliders campaign, where they're literally going from every plane of existence in D&D and visiting each one. So there's not really a way to do that other than, you know, gates. Although sometimes might through some mechanics in while doing, oh yeah, montages. Yeah, so sometimes I'll do like a montage where it's not actually they're doing the traveling and, you know, on horseback and camping at night and things of that nature, but maybe I'll do that and then just have a few rolls saying what happened, just so it's not non-existent. That sort of thing. But in general, I'm tending to shy away from it, which is not a good thing necessarily. When playing travel does not really appeal too much either, so I have... Oh yeah. So when I'm actually a player and not a DM, travel often doesn't appeal to me too much either. So I have a theory that, like with comedy, where you should write jokes you think are funny, when DM you should run a game you think you would want to play in. Yeah, and that's a theory I have about a lot of things, that you have to do what's fun for you, the DM. You can try to write games and scenarios and monsters and the whole shebang, with the sort of thought of writing from the point of view of pleasing others, trying to figure out what others like, But I think that way lies madness, because A, you can't always know, and B, if it doesn't align with what you think is fun, then you're not going to have fun doing so. I shouldn't say that totally, because you could get to the point where you're seeing your players have fun, and that's fun for you. But I feel like the best way you can do it is right from the perspective of a game you would want to play in. And this is what, as a study of comedy, of the stand-up variety mostly, for some reason, that's something that stand-up comedians will often say, is that you write jokes that you think will be funny, and then hope that they are. Some of them won't be, and those will get cut. And a similar thing from DMing. You write your DM stories, your puzzles, your whatevers, from a perspective of things you would be interested to encounter in a game. They're not all going to work, and that's fine. You keep and tweak the ones that do, and get rid of the ones that don't. So that's my sort of thought there. Almost never use random encounters. Not that that is what travel has to mean, of course, but that is often a default. Yeah, that's probably a safe assumption, that people who do use travel a lot in their campaigns do so that they can have random encounters, the sort of classic sleeping in shift, who's going to take the first shift, who's going to take the second shift. I've done it. It can be fun, but for the most part I don't find it that interesting. It's just sort of it feels like a stumbling block on the way to the main stories and the main goals, when it doesn't need to be. Like, I'd rather focus on what we're there to focus on than just sort of a random encounter. It can be fun, can be done well, I'm sure. It's just I've never had a huge amount of excitement for travel that is purely random encounter based. So, with all that in mind, my next campaign is going to have a travel as a spotlight. Yeah. I want it to be a very important part of the campaign. Have a rough idea revolving around the amazing race. Yeah, so because this is a Why I Am a Bad DM episode, and for the reason that I am trying to improve as a DM, I'm taking things that I'm bad at, such as travel, and trying to focus on them so I get better at them, because that's the only way you can do so. So my next campaign is going to be a lot of things that I don't do well. Travel, and sandboxiness, and they kind of go hand in hand, actually, so I think it's going to work out well. And I only have sort of tentative plans right at the moment, but it's going to combine those two things that I have sort of shied away from a little bit. Like, I use them, it's just they don't normally take the forefront, which I'm going to try to do in my next campaign after I'm done with the one that I'm currently working on, which is about monsters. Science versus magic. Interesting stuff. Let's move on to reviewing things. Oh no. A dragon burnt me, and my air elemental. Ooh, what if I click this?
Air elemental.
I don't know if the microphone picked that up. Probably did not. Okay, air elemental. This is the first elemental we've come across, which is fun. Elementals in general are interesting. Challenge rating 5. Air form can enter a hostile creature space and stop there. Can move through space as narrow as 1 inch without squeezing. That's kind of creepy. This, well, we'll see in a second. This is not the most horrifying of the air elemental images I have seen. So slam +8. Okay, pretty powerful. Whirlwinds. Got a recharge of 4/6, so fairly decent recharge. Each creature in the elemental space must make a DC 13. Not very big. I guess it depends on your character. Strength saving throw on a failure takes 15 bludgeoning damage and is flung 23 away from the elemental in a random direction and knocked prone. You know what? Curious about that. How do you determine the random direction? And let me just throw out what I do, and it seems to make sense. Roll a d6, and whichever way the 1 is pointing is the way the random direction is. So that includes up, in which case it is literally thrown up in the air 20 feet, in which case, unless you have a way to prevent it, you're going to take another 2d6 falling damage, right? Give or take. And then down, which is just you sort of, nothing happens. So, you know, there's good and bad, and then just all the other directions. Thrown an object such as wall or floor, the target takes 3. Okay, so I guess it would take 3 damage for every 10 feet it was thrown. If the target is thrown at another creature, that's fun too. DC 13 Dex save. Yeah, so this whole thing, whirlwind, a lot of fun. I like things like this, especially for the potential of just characters being thrown around at each other is kind of fun. Oh, and each creature as well, so you could have 2 sort of slammed into one another. Each creature in the elemental space. Oh, okay. So is this only when it says the elemental space? Is this only when it enters a hostile creature space? I thought it was maybe a line. Each creature in the elemental space. Okay. I have to think about that a little bit. Air elemental is a funneling cloud of whirling air with a vague semblance of a face. That's too vague, though. Itself into a screaming cyclone, and they're from, you guessed it, the plane of air. Yeah, see some cooler pictures here than this one. Look at this one. Yeah, that one's cool. Looks like it's got like a skeleton in there too. I like it. A little more cartoony, but still kind of cool. What's with the crystals? Ooh, that's interesting. Horrifying. Horrifying. Okay, so it's our first elemental, so that'll bump it up a mark, I'll say. Air, in terms of the freakiness of being able to be hard to get away from with the whole 1-inch space. I'm going to go with solid 4. Yeah, just 4 right down the middle. No ifs, ands, or 0.1s. Moving on to closing. The spell we will be discussing, which is Arcanist's Magic Aura. Level 2. You place an illusion on a creature or an object you touch so that divination spells reveal false information about it. The target can be a willing creature or an object that isn't being carried or worn by another creature. When you cast a spell, choose one or both of the following effects. Ooh, or both. The effects last for the duration. If you cast the spell on the same creature or object every day for 30 days, placing the same effect on it each time the illusion lasts until it's dispelled. Oh, okay, so some interesting stuff there. False aura is one of the things, one of the options. You change the way the target appears to spells and magical effects, such as detect magic, that detect magical auras. You can make a non-magical object appear magical, a magical object appear non-magical, or change the object's magical aura so that it appears to belong to a specific school of magic that you choose. Why? What would you do? When you use the effect on an object, you can make the false magic apparent to any creature that handles the item. When you use this effect on an object, you can make the false magic apparent. Okay, why would you want to do that? Interesting. So people who are using detect magic or some sort of scrying from afar would be fooled, but if you're holding it in your hands, you wouldn't be fooled? I wonder what scenario. A lot of questions about this one. Mask. You change the way the target appears to spells and magical effects that detect creature types, such as Paladin's Divine Sense, or I guess detect undead. That might be something. Or the trigger of a symbol spell. Okay. So you can get by certain things. You choose a creature type and other spells and magical effects. Treat the target as if it were a creature of that type or that alignment. Okay, this is an interesting one and very, very situational. There could exist, probably even the strong possibility, I feel like, that your DM will never use things that are affected by the spell. Like, I suppose your DM could have a big bad who uses scrying to keep an eye on your party, potentially, and things like this will help. But that's sort of an edge case scenario, I feel like. 24 hours. Okay, you know what I feel like the spell is? It's not a spell you're ever going to take. But it's a spell that you could potentially build story things around. Because there's a lot of interesting questions I have. Like, why would you want people holding this item not to know that this it has a different aura versus those using magical? Why would you want uh, 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 detect undead not to work on this undead? Like there's questions like that that sort of come to mind that are more story focused, which I think a fair amount of this is divination, I have to assume, right? Does it say anywhere? Okay, well, of the classes, it's got to be divination, right? Doesn't say though. Um, of divination magic in general, I think quite often they're better for story elements, which is, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Well, for this one in particular, it's hard to figure out, other than these edge case scenarios here of interest. Really not much, I would assume. That's what the spell did to me. It's not that exciting. I'm gonna participation time, as I like to attempt from time to time. What can you do with the spell? There are things, I'm sure I put my mind to it, and I think maybe in the scenario I have one, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of boring in terms of spells, right? Let's move on. Exciting location, let's hope.
At your destination.
The area of the Snow Eagles. Oh, the area of the Snow Eagles was the only known large settlement of the Avriel left on Toril. Located on the western edge of the Great Glacier, the area was a palace made of crystal built atop the sheared peak of Mount Sandabar. Now, that's interesting sounding, especially when you find out, as I did, that the Avriel are flying elves. Hello? Yeah, apparently there's some elves that can fly, and they lived here, a lot of them, but dragons liked the taste of them, so they went almost extinct. Very interesting. And I think this is something we see in some other monsters, too, that their favorite prey is elves because they taste so delicious. Not just dragons. There's another something I remember reading in a Forgotten Realms book where this thing loved eating elves so much that it was like its favorite food. So apparently elves taste delicious. We have to assume sea elves taste like fish. These flying elves taste like chicken. Normal elves, ham, I guess we'll go, because apparently humans, humanoids are just, we're very close to ham in term. I think one of the cannibal, why are we talking about cannibals? I don't know. This is what can happen on shows like this where you don't add it. It's called long pork. I think human, a term for eating a human, the meat of a human is called long pork. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. Why do I know that? Why is that up here in my head? Oh, let's crack my neck there. Anyways, area of the Snow Eagles. Oh, I'm supposed to bring up a picture of it. Where's my picture? Alright. That's not what I'm looking for. Some snowy eagles. What's going on here? Oh, it's actual birds. Alright, so kind of a cool thing, just for the fact that flying elves, you know, just saying that out loud is cool. I'll go a solid 3.7 for area of the Snow Eagles. Snow Eagles 2 is also, I think, isn't that what they call, I'm in Canada, and I think they call Canadians who go down to Florida for the winter snow eagles. I could be wrong about that. I feel like I might not be, but who knows. Let's move on to...
Arrived at your destination.
talking about traveling Canadians and cannibalism in this episode for some reason. Why don't we talk about Elf on a Mountain Shelf? Okay, so the Avriel are a race that are basically flying elves, as we've discussed. Long ago, they were driven from their ancestral home, known as the area of the Snow Eagles, by white dragons. See episode 17. Oh, shit. Did I use... What was the... did I screw this one up? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. Never mind. I thought I forgot to use the monster in my scenario. Virtually extinct, a group of young Avriel decided it was time to take back their home, as they had learned that seclusion was one of their best weapons to stay alive. They cast on themselves things like Arcanist Magic Aura to prevent any from magically locating them, which I don't think necessarily that is what the spell is, but it could maybe be used in that way, sort of, kind of, sort of. Bit of a stretch, maybe? I don't know or care. Step number 2 involved fortifying the mountaintop position. They did things like summon air elementals to use their whirlwind ability on any non-Avriel trying to land, and also they... other steps in your campaign side quests to help them. Yes, so my thought here, as with all scenarios, should you wish to use them in your campaign, in your backstory, in your whatevers, this can make it maybe a good mission where you are helping these elves to fortify their new home, and the missions could involve step-by-step things like getting these air elementals to work with them, getting finding some dwarves who are or gnomes who build ballista and helping them, because there's a lot of dragons in this area, so they gotta be careful with that. Things that would help them live on a mountaintop, and they could sort of go through these missions to gather supplies and things of that nature. Really, the sky's the limit in terms of what help they could need. Maybe they need to contact other flying elves far, far away, so you've got to set up a sort of teleportation circle, and the stone you needed to power it was stolen long ago by the Drow, so you have to travel to the Underdark, and things like that. So a lot of possibility in this little sentence, other steps in your campaign side quest to help them. Folks, let's move on to... questions from viewers. There you go. You need both air quotes, right? What if I go like this? I don't know what happened to this episode, but it's not a good one. So basically, viewer in quotes, because until you lovely folks watching this start leaving questions in the Underdark down below, I will be taking the questions from various Facebook-related D&D groups where people post questions, and I like to go in and answer them from time to time, and then bring them back here, because I don't have questions to pull from the Underdark below, is what's happening. Okay, so quite often in the Facebook groups, the questions are very long. So this is the too long did not read version. I suppose it should be didn't read, because did not read would be did not read. Okay. Should I make a subtle tweak to a spell that would make it not raw, rules as written, but would make it for a better story? Spell involved teleportation circle, which is maybe why I just mentioned it in the last segment. It was sort of on my mind. So short answer is yes, long answer is yes. My thought here, changing rules as written, if it is more fun, is always the way to go, unless you have the most fun by blindly following rules as written, and if that is the case, I am not going to yuck your yum. So, then I threw in a Judge John Hodgman quote here. People like what they like. So, I feel like quite often people will say, and this is one of the #1 rules, I think, in the Player's Handbook or in the Dungeon Master Guide, that fun takes precedence over rules. That's a sort of a good rule for a lot of things. Maybe not in life in general, because that could lead to some troubles. But when it comes to playing games, surely fun should trump all, right? But I feel like there's people out here who are very much opposed to that feeling, very vocal people, and I can understand it because this is how I sort of wrap my mind around them saying that rules are more important than fun. Their fun, such as it is, comes from following the rules, knowing the rules, following the rules, saying what rules, how they should be followed. They have fun doing that, and I'm not going to tell them that they shouldn't have fun doing that. Sort of my thought around rules versus fun in terms of, and this was a very subtle tweak. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was just like, I think it had to do with distance. That was basically it. So it was sort of, in this case, a very clear black and white, I felt like. But I bet you could find DMs and maybe even tables where a change such as this would be anathema, which is, I think I used that word correctly. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to yuck your yum, as I said. So that's my thoughts on subtle tweaks. I do not so subtle tweaks if they are more fun. Something that I find important and I get my fun from is not the blindly following, and I do like tweaking, but what I also like is two things that maybe some don't, which is logic and consistency. So if there was a logical reason, which there was, for this subtle tweak for this spell, and I consistently did it throughout the campaign, that is, to me, better and more fun than just willy-nilly changing as needed. So it's almost like I'm somewhere between this blindly following and tweaking all over the place sort of thought. Anyways, downhill, this podcast web series, whatever this is. Good thing it's over, right, Jean-Claude?
It's done!
Yeah, it is. Sure is. Folks, we did it. Sort of. Another episode. Bites the rust? I have no idea why I said that, or anything I said, other than I don't like to beg for your likes, your subscribes, your notification bell clicks. Instead, I bribe for them by saying, should you do so, this lovely organization, TakeThis.org, will get money from me, no less. When we reach 100 subscribers, when we reach 200, when we reach 400, when we reach 800, when we reach that special level one day, no doubt, the way things are going, where this channel starts making money, half of all monies will be, again, donated to this great organization that focuses on mental health and sort of revolves around gaming as well. So it's a perfect fit for me and this thing. Whatever this thing is. Folks, you have to look for the button that I push at the end of every episode that stops, but not before saying, it's nice to be nice to the nice.